Hey everyone, how's it going? So I'm glad to be back for my first video of 2019. I wanted to do a TBR for January, because I used to not like TBRs. I used to feel like I could never hold to them very well. But in 2018 I sort of realized that I can. That if I choose the books carefully enough for my TBR, and really think about what I really want to read at the moment, then they can work very well. And I know that this TBR will work at least partially because I've already started some of the books. And one of them is going to be Buddy Read. And I'll start with that one, and it's Dune Messiah by Frank Herbert. The sequel to his classic of science fiction, Dune. And this novel is considered the weakest in the Dune series. It'll be interesting reading it and forming my own opinion. And this is a buddy read as a part of Dune-uary, as it's called. And it's sort of a group buddy read hosted by Mindy at Mindy's Book Journey, and I think Dane of Dane Reads is a part of it, and a number of others. And so yeah, that'll be interesting. We're going to be communicating via email, and I think I'll making videos about Dune Messiah, so you can look for that later in the month. And yeah, so Dune Messiah. Next is a book that I began just today, A Mad Love, An Introduction to Opera by Vivian Schweitzer. I got more and more into opera as 2018 went along, I sort of didn't know that much about it. I knew a little bit, I knew some of the rudiments of it, but when Steve Donahue hauled this on his channel, I saw it as a great opportunity to get a real, not too in-depth, but definitely, I think, so far it seems quite thorough, quite thorough introduction to it, just to the mechanics of opera, the history of opera, how opera works, things like that. So I'm really looking forward to this. I want to make a video about it. Hopefully that will happen. We'll see. But I'm really enjoying it so far. It's very well written. Vivian Schweitzer is a music critic and a pianist. So yeah, I'm enjoying it a lot so far. Next is probably the book I'm most uncertain about because it's so big, but it's Behave: The Biology of Humans at Our Best and Worst by Robert Sapolsky. And this is just a big book about neuroscience. And I sort of really got into neuroscience last year after reading Phantoms in the Brain by V.S. Ramachandran and Sandra Blakesley, and reading book, I can't remember the title of the book now, sorry, but it was a book about the neuroscience of consciousness, and so I've just been getting really into neuroscience. So when I found out that there was a gigantic book like this about neuroscience, I could not resist. But yeah, I really do want to try to nail this out early in the year, because I would like to read more of the classics of popular neuroscience literature, but first I want to get through this. So yeah, we will see about this though. Perhaps I'll just take it slowly, chip away at it, read it in the first 2 months of the year or something like that, but yeah, definitely a book I want to get to soon. Next, on a much more somber note, is The Spectrum of Hope, an optimistic and new approach to Alzheimer's disease and other dementias. And this strikes very close to home because my grandpa died last year, and he didn't die of Alzheimer's, but he had very advanced Alzheimer's when he died, and so just even though this purports to be an optimistic look at the subject, this will probably be tough reading, but I am eager to get to it. The next two books are rereads, both of them. First is Aeschylus, the Oresteia, and Prometheus Bound. And really, I just want to reread this because it's been a little while since I've read either of these, and I really like Aeschylus, and yeah, I just kind of reading it because I feel like it. Next one is the Theban plays by Sophocles, which, similarly to Aeschylus, I just want to reread because I feel like it, because I love Sophocles. But also, Elena Macredina and I are going to be buddy reading the Thebaid. I'm not sure how it's pronounced, but it's this long epic poem written by Statius, who is a Roman poet. And it tells the story of the House of Laius and the whole the House of Thebes, I should say, and it goes over the events told in the Sophocles' plays. but then also has the lead up to them and the aftermath. So I thought it would be cool to sort of review Sophocles' trilogy before going into that. Yeah, and I also just love the Theban trilogy. It's one of my favorite books ever, so it'll just be nice to return to. And next up is another book that I've already begun. It's The Poets Dante, edited by Peter Hawkins and Rachel Jacoff. And this is just a collection of essays by 20th century poets about Dante. And yeah, I've already dipped into it. I've read a few of the essays. I read the essay by James Merrill. I read the essay by T.S. Eliot, and I'm really liking them so far. Even the essays I've read so far that haven't had huge insights have just been a lot of fun to read, because I just love reading about books, if it's a book I've read, especially. And so that makes reading this a lot of fun anyway. And I'm not sure if I will read this whole thing this month. I may sort of chip away at it, read a couple of the essays per month, and have it read by the end of the year. Just because that works well for me with collections of short stories and collections of essays like this. But we'll see. So yeah, The Poets Dante, and next, another collection of essays is Emerson's Essays, first and second series. I've never read any Emerson. And I had wanted to, because he sort of sounded like a writer who might be up my alley. And then there was just the fact that he's sort of a titan over American literature. And this seemed like a great place to go, because it's all of his most important essays. And I read the first one today, which is called History, and loved it. Just such eloquent writing. I was hooked right away. It was, literary love at first sight, so to speak. So I'm really looking forward to reading more of this. But like the Poets Dante, I might take it like a couple essays per month, and maybe just make this a full year read rather than zipping through it right now. But yeah, I definitely think Emerson is going to turn into a new favorite author. And similarly, yet again, another book that I will not read in its entirety this month, the Lives of Plutarch. I'm just going to read, my plan for this year is to read one of the Lives of Plutarch per month. So I will have read 12 of them by the end of the year. And I'm starting with one of the shortest ones, which is the life of Artaxerxes, who was a king of Persia in, I believe, the 4th century BC, somewhere around there. And it's only like 20 pages long, so it seemed like a good place to start and just get acclimated to Plutarch's writing. And also I'm just interested in the Persian Empire and the history of the Persian Empire, and haven't really read much about it, though. I've watched a bunch of documentaries about it, but haven't read much about the Persian Empire. So that'll be interesting. And yeah, anyway, this will be just an interesting author to get into this year. And finally, I have yet another book that I'm not going to read in its entirety. That seems like a weird theme in this TBR, but I have the selected works of Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. And this is a library book, and I grabbed it because last month I read Goethe's Faust, Part 1, and loved it. Definitely one of my favorite reads of 2018. It's a little bit of a shame that I read it after I did my 2018 postscript, because it might have made it into that video. But the volume I was reading didn't have the entirety of Faust Part 2. It had an excerpt, because Faust Part 2 kind of has a reputation for being kind of tedious. But the completist in me wants to read the whole thing. And with everything else that I want to read, I'm a little skeptical as to whether I will squeeze it in, but it's a play, and plays tend to be quick reads. It is a longer play, but still. So we'll see about Faust Part 2, but what I am going to be reading from this volume is the poetry, because there's a sort of medium-sized selection of Goethe's poetry at the end, and I've never read any of Goethe's poetry, or really any German poetry at all. And I read one or two and really liked them, so I just want to spend the month reading those. They're about 30, so I can just read one per day. And I hope to do some of my poetry reading videos on poems by Goethe, so look out for those. And also, just to mention, another reading project that I have for 2019 is to devote my entire reading month, in terms of my reading of poetry, to one particular poet. So this month is going to be Goethe. Next month I hope to do Shelley, just read Shelley throughout February. March, I think I came up with a whole schedule for it, but I don't have it with me, but I think March was Tennyson. I'm going to be doing John Donne. I'm going to be doing a bunch of the Romantics, Byron, Blake, among others. I'm going to be having a month of Whitman, a month of Dickinson, so yeah, I'm just going to be... And in those months, I will do my poetry reading videos on poems that I've read by those poets as I go along. So that's just a reading project of mine that I just wanted to mention. And finally, I have a book that's not really a reading book, but it's Art Treasures of Italy. Italy just has had a disgusting number of brilliant painters. And painting is another art form that I sort of started to get more into in the second half of 2018, and anyway, I just wanted to sort of keep exploring it a little bit. I don't exactly know how to make my way around learning about painting as an art form, because I've never taken any classes on the subject. I never had much art education in school, so I'm just kind of left going to the library and picking out volumes that seem interesting. So that's just what I'm going to go with, and this is what I grabbed at the library. So yeah, I'll be looking through this. So that's what I'm reading for January. If you have read any of these books, let me know, give me your thoughts, and let me know what you're reading. I'm curious to hear. I'm looking forward to the new year. I'm looking forward to squeezing in as much reading as I can into the next 2 weeks, because in 2 weeks I go back to school. Anyway, I will talk to you all later, and happy reading. Bye, guys.